Here's something nobody tells you about intelligence. It doesn't protect you. It arms the thing that's hurting you. The smarter you are, the more sophisticated your justifications become. The more airtight your reasons for staying exactly where you are. You don't stay because you're blind. You stay because you can see 40 reasons to remain and construct an argument for each one that would hold up in court. This video isn't about what you think it's about. It's not about toxic relationships or dead-end jobs or friendships that drain you, though it'll explain all of those. It's about a specific cognitive mechanism that hijacks high-functioning minds and turns their greatest asset into a cage. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. You'll recognize it in every decision you've delayed, every boundary you've talked yourself out of, every situation you knew was wrong 6 months before you admitted it. Most people assume intelligent people stay in bad situations because of emotions. They think it's love or loyalty or fear. And those things are real, but they're not the engine. The real reason intelligent people stay in situations that damage them is something far more structural, and it has almost nothing to do with feelings. It has to do with how your brain processes cost. You've probably heard of the sunk cost fallacy. Everyone has. It's the idea that people irrationally weigh what they've already invested when deciding whether to continue, and you probably think you're above it. That's the first problem. Because the standard version of the sunk cost fallacy, the one they teach in introductory economics, is the children's version. The version that operates in intelligent minds is something else entirely. It doesn't look like irrationality. It looks like wisdom. It sounds like nuance, and that's exactly why it works. See, when an average person falls for the sunk cost fallacy, it's crude. They stay at a bad movie because they paid for the ticket. They keep eating a meal they don't enjoy because it was expensive. That version is easy to spot and relatively easy to override. But when someone with a high-functioning mind encounters sunk cost, the fallacy doesn't present itself as stubbornness. It presents itself as complexity. Your brain doesn't say, "I've invested too much to leave." Your brain says the situation is more nuanced than a simple stay-or-go binary. It says, "I have a unique understanding of this dynamic that others don't." It says leaving now would mean I was wrong about my original assessment, and my original assessment was careful. The fallacy wraps itself in the language of thoughtfulness, and you can't fight what you can't distinguish from your own best thinking. This is the mechanism. I call it the intelligence trap, and it operates on a principle that's almost cruel in its elegance. The more cognitive resources you have, the more elaborate the prison you can build from the inside. A person of average intelligence who's stuck in a bad relationship might struggle to articulate why they stay. A highly intelligent person in the same relationship can produce a doctoral thesis on why staying is actually the sophisticated choice. They can reference attachment theory. They can talk about how all relationships require sacrifice. They can contextualize their partner's behavior within childhood trauma frameworks. They can argue that leaving is the easy, reductive option and that staying requires real emotional maturity. Every single one of those arguments can sound not just reasonable, but genuinely insightful. And every single one can be dead wrong. Here's what's actually happening at the neurological level. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex reasoning and long-term planning, is extraordinarily good at constructing post-hoc justifications. It doesn't just analyze situations, it builds cases. and it builds cases for whatever position your limbic system has already chosen. This is what Jonathan Haidt calls the rider and the elephant. The emotional brain is the elephant, moving wherever it wants. The rational brain is the rider, and the rider's job isn't to steer. The rider's job is to be the elephant's lawyer. The smarter the rider, the better the legal defense. That's you. You're not staying because your analysis is sound. You're staying because your analysis is skilled enough to make any position sound. Let me make this concrete. Think about someone you know, maybe yourself, who stayed in a job that was clearly eroding them, not a job that was hard. Hard is fine. A job that was making them smaller, less curious, less alive, more defensive. And when anyone suggested they leave, they had an answer. The market's bad right now. I'm building towards something specific here. You don't understand the politics. There's actually a path forward if I play this right. I'd leave, but the benefits are too good to walk away from. I'm being strategic. Every one of those statements might contain a grain of truth, but stacked together, they form something that isn't strategy. It's architecture. It's a building designed to keep you inside, and you're both the architect and the prisoner. The grain of truth in each justification is what makes the structure load-bearing. Remove the truth and the wall falls. But you can't bring yourself to remove it because it is true, partially, and your mind won't let you act on partial information when full information is available. So you wait, you gather more data, you analyze further, and the situation continues. Nietzsche saw this with terrifying clarity. He wrote that the most common form of human stupidity is forgetting what one is trying to do. He wasn't talking about people with low intelligence. He was talking about people with so much intelligence that they could sustain an infinite number of sub-goals, contingency plans, and abstract frameworks, all while the original purpose, the actual thing they wanted from life, quietly disappeared beneath the complexity. You didn't forget what you wanted. You buried it under so many layers of sophisticated reasoning that it became inaccessible, and the burial felt like progress because each layer was genuinely smart. There's a second component to this mechanism that makes it especially vicious, and it's the one nobody talks about. Intelligent people don't just rationalize staying. They rationalize their own suffering as meaningful. This is where it gets dark, because when you're smart enough to construct meaning from pain, you will almost always choose to stay in pain rather than admit the pain was meaningless. Think about that. If you leave a situation that hurt you for 3 years, you're faced with a brutal question. What were those 3 years for? A less analytical mind can shrug that off. They can say it didn't work out and move forward. But a mind like yours can't tolerate waste. It can't accept that significant time and energy were spent on something that was simply wrong from the start. So instead of accepting the loss, you convert it. You turn the suffering into a lesson. You turn the dysfunction into growth. You tell yourself you're becoming more resilient, more empathetic, more patient. And maybe you are, but you're becoming those things the way a prisoner becomes good at living in a cell. The adaptation is real. The environment is still a cage. This is also why intelligent people are disproportionately vulnerable to intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive reward schedule known to behavioral psychology. Intermittent reinforcement is when a reward comes unpredictably, sometimes after effort, sometimes not, with no consistent pattern. Slot machines run on it, so do most toxic relationships. The average person experiencing intermittent reinforcement feels confused and eventually frustrated. The intelligent person experiencing it does something far more dangerous. They start modeling. They look for the pattern. They believe that if they can just understand the variables well enough, they can predict when the reward will come and optimize their behavior accordingly. They treat an inherently random system as a solvable equation. And because they're smart enough to occasionally find what looks like a pattern, they get just enough false confirmation to keep going. The intelligence doesn't help them escape the trap. It makes them the perfect subject for it. Let me give you the scenario that'll hit closest to home. You're in a situation right now, and you know which one I'm talking about, where you've already done the analysis. You've already weighed the pros and cons. You've already had the honest conversation with yourself at 2 in the morning. And the conclusion you reached in that moment, the one that was clear and sharp and undeniable, was that you need to leave. But then morning came. And with morning came your prefrontal cortex, fully rested, ready to work. And it started doing what it does. It introduced nuance, reminded you of the good moments. It constructed a future scenario where things improve. It told you that the version of you who decided to leave at 2 in the morning was emotional, reactive, not thinking clearly, and you believed it. Because the argument was good. It's always good. That's the trap. Now, I want you to see yourself clearly for a moment. Not the version of yourself that has the answers. The version that's been using the answers as a wall. There are 2 traps you're likely sitting in right now, and they look like opposites, but they serve the same function. The first trap is over-analysis as delay. You've convinced yourself that you haven't made a decision yet because you don't have enough information. You're still thinking it through. You're being careful. But if you're honest, genuinely honest, you've had enough information for months. The analysis isn't serving the decision. The analysis is replacing the decision. Every new angle you consider, every new framework you apply, every conversation you have about the situation is a way of feeling like you're doing something without actually doing anything. Motion without movement. You're not thinking your way toward a choice. You're thinking your way around one. The second trap is premature acceptance. This is where you've decided that the situation is simply who you are now. You've absorbed it into your identity. You don't even frame it as a problem anymore. You frame it as a reality. This is just what my career looks like. This is just how relationships are at this stage. I've made my peace with it, but peace isn't what you've made. What you've made is a ceasefire with something that's still taking from you daily. You've stopped fighting not because the war is over, but because you've gotten used to the sound of the shelling. That's not acceptance. That's surrender with a better vocabulary. The narrow path between these 2 traps is brutally simple, and that's why your mind will resist it. The path is this: you already know. You've known for a while. The knowing isn't the problem. The acting on the knowing is the problem. And no amount of additional analysis will make the action feel safe, because the action isn't supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel like loss, because it is loss. And your mind would rather stay in a burning building than walk through a door marked, "I was wrong." So here's what you're going to do. Not tomorrow. Not after you think about it more. Tonight, you're going to name the situation. Out loud. Not in your head where your prefrontal cortex can intercept it and start lawyering. Out loud where it becomes real and clumsy and undeniable. You're going to say the sentence that you've been constructing arguments against for months. This job is making me worse. This relationship is not what I'm pretending it is. I've been staying because I'm afraid, not because I'm strategic. You say it out loud and you hear your own voice saying it. That's the move. That's the entire move. Because here's what happens psychologically when you externalize a belief you've been containing internally. It exits the jurisdiction of your rationalization engine. Inside your head, every thought is subject to revision, reframing, recontextualization. Your mind can take any internal statement and soften it before it lands. But once it's in the air, once your ears hear it in your own voice, it becomes an event. It happened, you said it, and your brain has to process it not as a thought to be managed, but as a fact to be responded to. This is why confession works across every culture and every therapeutic modality. Not because saying things is magic, because saying things out loud moves them from the part of your brain that builds cases to the part that makes decisions. You don't need to make the full move tonight. You don't need to quit or leave or confront anyone. You need to say this sentence, one sentence, the true one. The one you've been running from by running toward complexity. Say it tonight. Say it out loud. Say it alone if you have to. But say it. And then sit with it. Don't analyze what you just said. Don't start constructing the plan. Don't let your mind turn the confession into a project. Just let it exist. Let it be true without being managed. That's the hardest thing you'll do. Not because it's complicated, because it's simple. And your mind doesn't trust simple. Your mind thinks simple means you're missing something. You're not missing something. You've been adding things that were never there, so you'd have a reason to keep looking. Here's what this video was actually about. It wasn't about why smart people stay in bad situations. You already knew that. You've probably already read 3 articles and 2 books on the subject. You could explain it to someone else with perfect clarity. This video was about the distance between knowing and doing, and why that distance isn't a gap in your understanding. It's a feature of your intelligence. The same engine that makes you exceptional at comprehending the world makes you exceptional at building a case for not changing it. Your mind isn't broken. Your mind is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is that what it was built to do and what you need it to do are not the same thing right now. You don't need more insight. You don't need a better framework. You don't need to understand yourself more deeply before you act. You need to act before you understand, for once, and let the understanding come after. The smartest people in the world aren't the ones who can explain their situation with the most precision. They're the ones who can stop explaining and move. You've always had the ability to see clearly. Now it's time to find out if you have the ability to stop looking and start walking. Those are not the same skill, and only one of them will change your life.